Right, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Now you can go ahead and provide us all the updates regarding OpenxAI and how is it going for you. All we want to know a lot of things, then we will go ahead with the questions. So yeah, the stage is all yours.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. So as usual, we go over some insights around the industry a little bit. We'll get into after that OpenxAI related questions and some updates. And then we'll wrap up with community questions. So this is an interesting topic. I think if you're being around in crypto for a while, you probably heard the DeFi AI or DeFi. Uh, it's a terminology. It's a combination of decentralized finance and AI. So it was a big kind of a trend back in, I think, 2024, way before agent boom happened in late 2024. So the idea is quite straightforward. You have kind of an AI act as a smart advisor. So the function of a technology would be to analyze data, summarize, like for example, like yield strategy um, in decentralized finance, and just basically tell human what to do. And then human will take that information, and you just click a button, like maybe click on MetaMask or approve a payment or approve a transfer or approve or hit trade. So this is what used to be. I have a strong feeling this year, specifically towards to Q4, we are going to see Agentic 5, which is basically it's a DeFi, but where the primary user is no longer going to be a human, it's going to be AI agent. So it's not like humans are clicking buttons. It's going to be agents going to read data. It will formulate the intent. That's very important. I'll get into more details about the intent. And then execute, whether there's on-chain strategies or risk management or everything that's needed autonomously. Um, so, I mean, people can call it like agentic finance, right? So since crypto has the native, like the finance, the capabilities, the interoperability between finance and agentic technologies will be phenomenal, in my opinion. So let me give you guys a bit of a history, like the smart systems that exist in crypto, right? Because I used to build some of those systems in the past. So early days, let's call it more intelligent crypto systems. One of a protocol I remember. So this was 2017. It's called Melon Protocol. They have rebranded the name now, but it was a very interesting concept. Like if you guys familiar with like a traditional hedge fund, so what is the purpose of a hedge fund? So you have like expert human and manage money, whether proprietary hedge fund or like a hedge fund that raise money from other people. So you have a capital, and you as a human, you look at the industry, you balance whether you want to keep it in crypto, you want to keep it in stable coins, or put your capital into running a node, or maybe putting into DeFi industry to earn yields, or you can put in Aave to earn yield and etc. So like crypto hedge funds, that's the nature of crypto hedge funds in 2016 and 2017. I happen to run a firm called Blockchain Partners back in 2015 and 2016. So the idea of Blockchain Partners is to look for manage a small fund that I had, a personal fund. I had it for myself. Then I was looking for like a most optimal way to generate yields back in the days, because that was the early days. Um, and one of the interesting a project, they made it automated. That process is called Melon protocol. So you have off-chain some sort of a simple like a simple kind of AI, very dumb, by the way, right? So very dumb. So we're talking about things like, calculating simple moving average and calculating things like the liquidity between different exchanges and the inflow and outflow between exchanges, and things like the on-chain metrics, like how many tokens are moving in Ethereum and Bitcoin network, and also reading Twitter feeds back in the day. So you have like a sentiment analysis tool on Twitter, and all it does, it basically try to make sense what's going on. It's very basic, by the way, right? So it's called a tone analyzers. So these are simple sentiment analysis based on keywords. And when it's come to analyzing the liquidity, these models are very basic. So understanding how much liquidity go in and go out from different exchanges, you aggregate those values, and then you just look for like a technical indicators of major cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Ethereum, like simple moving average, and the liquidity, like the volume profiles, like the simple moving average of volume on a particular crypto like Bitcoin. And what you do is you basically create some sort of a buy or sell or hold in a different time zone. Sorry, in a different time frames, not time zone. So if you want to buy or sell Bitcoin, whether it's hourly base or daily base or weekly base. So what this Melon protocol did, so they have off-chain strategies. So these strategies are very, like I said, it's very simple strategy to understand what people speak or gossip or how people feel on social media. Try to draw a correlation to how the liquidity flow between exchanges and how especially on-chain assets move in the blockchain. Based on those simple analytics and insights, you build like simple models to predict, right? These are not like sophisticated prediction models, very basic stuff, mostly built using deep learning and deep reinforcement learning. So you have those strategies running off chain, and then off chain, these, let's call it smart intelligence from a running an off chain, like maybe a AWS server, generate these buy and sell signals. Those signals come into an on-chain vault. So the on-chain vaults are very, very common, but back in the days, it's quite sexy because it's essentially a smart contract that you can just put, you can put crypto into it. Like think about like a basket, and inside the basket, you put a bunch of crypto. So it's a ERC20 wrapper, if you want to call it. So it's like a bucket that you can put any ERC20 inside. So these vaults, you can put different types of crypto, whether it's stable coins or any other, shit coins or anything that you want to do, that you want to trade, including wrap BTC. So inside the basket, then the off-chain component can say what to do, right? Usually these execution sometimes very, very bad, but it worked at that time, right? So it's a really cool idea that you have a off-chain intelligence system predicting what to do, and then execution happened on chain. So that was a very, very early days of, let's call it, more intelligent systems that I can recall. And then my good friend of mine who kind of built the um, DeFi DeFi industry, to be honest. His name is Andre Kronijay. So we used to work with together in Phantom. So he, like, we tried the idea like on-chain money optimizations, because I think, like, we thought, especially Andre thought, DeFi is going to be a big deal, right? So when we talk about DeFi back in 2018, nobody even heard about DeFi. No DeFi existed. The only thing existed is Curve back in the days. No decentralized exchanges exist. So no Uniswap, nothing exists back in the days. Most of the use case back in the days is basically building blockchains, like copycat of Ethereum, a better, faster, cheaper blockchains, right? There were other narratives, but mostly it's about building like L1 chains. So this is way before Solana, by the way. Solana was 2019. We're talking about before that. So, um, so one of the interesting protocol that Andre built is basically removing the off-chain component. Because why off-chain component is bad? Because the trust. Because if this off-chain component controlled by a small company or small group of people, they can create like malicious signals. So which means whoever trusting assets and whoever depositing assets into those votes, if the off-chain intelligence system is compromised, then someone can basically do, one small team can take over or do some really damage to to these vaults. So the trust itself was kind of not, good at that time with the projects like Melon Protocol. But what Andre did, he introduced something called Eel Optimizer. So the protocol called Yearn protocol. He launched Yearn, I think July 2022. So 2020, July 2020. So he's been building that in 2019 and early 2020, but he launched in 2020 during DeFi summer. So the idea is quite straightforward. You have a simple algorithm that built using smart contracts, like written in Solidity, and it scans for the most optimal yield strategies, whether you want to deposit some liquidity into liquidity farming uh, uh, activities and maybe deposit some stable coins into liquidity related use cases and whether earn yields in the native tokens, or you can earn yields by providing liquidity. So liquidity provisioning, liquidity optimization was a it was a big trend back in 2020. So people used to provide liquidity, stable coins, and maybe other coins to other protocols and earn yields. So there was a huge industry back in the days called yield farming, right? So people earn yield. So Yearn protocol, it was a yield optimizer, or people used to call it yield farming protocol. So that was a very interesting concept, right? So you have on-chain some sort of a smarter program, and it looks at the most profitable things that lives and breathes on-chain, and it's basically execute things in a trustless way. So what is the product for the end user? So if you have $10,000, what you do is you just deposit your $10,000 to the most profitable vault. You can choose the vault, and then just forget about it, right? So you just deposit money like a bank. The difference with the Yearn protocol, it optimizes your yield by taking your capital and allocate it to different protocols and earn the maximum yield. Now, of course, risks. There were a couple of risks from a smart contract level, vulnerabilities, all the way to the protocol these liquidity going to be allocated to. But regardless, it was a very interesting concept. So compared to Melon protocol in 2017, where you have off-chain component generate these sort of smart signals and plugging into on-chain environment for execution, going from that to completely different industry, which is completely on-chain. So after with that inspiration with Yearn protocol, so before Open Mesh and before OpenxAI, I had a project called Deep Link. So Deep Link, it's basically I remember when I present these ideas to people, people always laugh. I was presenting the idea of swarm robots or swarm intelligence in on-chain, we call it Nidaria. Nidaria is agents living and breathing in on-chain world. So this is 2021, by the way. So the idea here, you can take the Yearn protocol idea into the next level. Is no longer very simple algorithms. It's a little bit more smarter algorithm. You can go to my Medium or my blog. You can go into 2021. You guys can see some of the analysis and some of the development work we did. So it's essentially, it's kind of like an intelligent system living and breathing in a blockchain. So we did a really cool POC. It's called kind of a kind of economic agent model. It's called a beer agent model. So beer agent model means you have a bunch of smart contracts, and these smart contracts act as a distributor, supplier, and seller of beer. So it's a common game in MIT, especially when it's come to computer science. This beer game is to create some sort of a real world scenario, supply demand of beer. So the beer manufacturer is one entity, and then the distributor is another entity, and a reseller, and then the bar or the consumer. So you have the full end, like A to Z supply chain. So what happened in this kind of a simple algorithms and simple examples, you can create supply and demand like random, and you can see how the interaction is actually working in a very harmonious way. What I mean, more optimized and harmonic way is that, let's say the manufacturer is producing more beer compared to the demand, then you have oversupply. When you have oversupply, then when a distributor want to distribute, the distributor is basically going to taking a significant risk. So distributor also should be aware supply demand dynamics. So these are simple, computer science problems. So what we did, we just copy paste that program. Instead of running on a Amazon server, we wrote a smart contract. And back in the days, of course, we didn't have like a faster, cheaper blockchains or L2 solutions like Base. We had some solutions, but they were quite complicated and wasn't compatible with EVM, which is Ethereum virtual machine. So we had to build everything on Ethereum, right? We built on Ethereum testnet because we don't want to pay significant gas fees. So the idea here now, you have a kind of a bunch of smart contracts, and each smart contract act like a manufacturer, distributor, and the beer shop, like an entity, or if you want to call it like a smart agent. And then beer is basically an ERC token. Let's call it a beer token. And a beer token is minted and burned and kind of a transfer between the different smart contracts. The whole operation run autonomously, right? So all you have to trigger, whether it's a supply, demand, a trigger, like you could just put a number into the smart contract and say, okay, there's a 200 beers required by the beer shop, and the smart contract is basically triggers and then start the process completely start autonomously, and then the whole process, it goes for like days, right? It looks like these agents are negotiating each other. These are smart contracts, by the way, right? They are negotiating each other. They're trying to do optimal way, and sometimes they fail. It's everything run autonomously on chain in Ethereum network. So we call these agents Nidaria. So that was a really great use case. The reason why I'm saying this, I think I think these experiments that we did and things that we did very, very early days, nobody give a damn about, our papers that we published, things that we built, because it was early. Like, people had no idea the idea of agents and how autonomous agents can be useful. Back in the days, there weren't many use cases. 2021, most of agents are quite dumb. We had to use like deep reinforcement learning or reinforcement learning to build and program these agents. It's quite complicated back in the days. But looking back today, the the idea of an agent, quite popular, and the technology and methodologies how to build and manage these agents are far more superior. And we also have a significant amount of innovation in terms of infrastructure. Now, if you speak like X402, it's a really good innovation where agent will have a wallet, and agent can receive and send payments autonomously. That's a huge innovation that we had. We had a huge problem with that back in the days, right? Because we wanted to have a native wallet that attached to an agent, but we had to build everything manually. But now these become like an industry standard. So what I'm trying to say, I mean, I could be wrong on this, but I think 2026, especially like Q4, Q3, um, the idea of the agentic finance is going to be a big deal. So the idea like agentic GDP probably going to be a thing. Like you have GDP to measure, um, you know, like countries' outputs, like people familiar with those metrics to determine, how a country is doing well, right? So America, China, India, they are, GDPs are quite strong and then growing really well. But if you think about, instead of a country, if you think about like agentic or AI agents, like a one nation, so we're talking about agentic GDP, or in short, like AGDP. So right now, when I looked at agentic GDP, is less than $1 billion right now. These are very small experiments, and use cases are still early days, which means like in the next, maybe 3 to 5 years, the agents are going to be a big part of our economy. Um, I don't think people are going to, want to know a lot about these like admin tasks. So all the way from productivity, workplace, finance, management, automation, all of these different, uh, basic functions in a society will be managed by agents. Um, I'll give you a good example, right? So at OpenxAI team, we've got research teams, we have teams who building, let's say, software. We have teams who are looking after community, like answering questions. We have teams, we have 1 to 2 team looking after like social media banners. They design manually, right? So they use like software to create video, right? They use software to generate these types of, like a video content or banners. So our organization or our project, you have different team members executing different tasks. These are humans. But if you have agents looking after those tasks, for example, one agent might be just answering questions on Telegram and Discord, or it basically like managing those communities. And if there are questions, those questions will be converted into insights and then spread with our team. And our team will basically answer to the agent. Agent will take that insights and then go back and answer those questions. So whenever a community member asks for some question, the agent learn that those those responses and then basically respond like speaking coming directly from the team, right? So there are things that we see agents can take over, like a lot of admin types of tasks. And I think when it's come to creative side, like currently we have designers in-house design a lot of our banners and social media banners. And I think that area also will be taken over by agents, because agents can understand our brand identity, our brand guideline, and what message we wanted to create as a social media post. And the agent will does the job, you know, in one go. Not only create the post, but also generate the video or the image that required to send the message. So that can change based on what's going on internally, or it can be adapt to what's going on outside. Similarly, when it's come to research, communication, marketing, even software development, a lot of these things can be can be automated by agents. And I think that's a very good example how a small business or startup can leverage agents to accelerate their productivity. Because if you have like for example, we have a great in-house designer, we've got a great team in-house, but they have limitations, right? They cannot work 24/7. But if you have agents can scale like 2,000, 3,000 agents at a fraction of a cost compared to a human. um, but things like, obviously, you might argue like, people don't have common sense. People have common sense, but agents will not have common sense. They don't have intuition and a lot of things that we appreciate. You'll be surprised, like the personalities can be embedded into agents, and then you can create some sort of like a gut feeling that we have sometimes to an agent. Like I've done some research on that. I think those can be achieved in a more business environment, right? When it's come to personal things, like maybe your personal life, how you interact with people, how you relate to people, how you connect with family, that will be different. But in a business context, a lot of these personalities and intuition and intent can be programmed, and agents can be learned. And I think that progress is going to continue to grow, this year and following year. Um, so this is where I think the agents will be a lot more valuable, I would say. Um, if we have any economic downturn, um, like I don't know if you guys are familiar with the 13 years economic cycles. So we're not talking about crypto, we're talking about housing market, like housing industry. We're talking about housing market, we're talking about equity market, we're talking about global economies. So when you have significant amount of growth around the world, and it has to reach to a peak and has to cool off. Whether that cool off period is going to happen end of 2026 or 2027, I mean, we don't know. Let's assume that we are going to reach some sort of a economic um, cool off period. So where small businesses don't necessarily have much cash in their bank to expand and do things. I'm not saying like 2008 crash, but assuming like economic slowdown. So when that happen, small businesses are always going to be looking at like cheaper labor, like cheap labor. Agents going to be a fantastic alternative for looking after their staff. So like companies can cut like 50, 60, 80, 70% staff and replace with agents. Whether it's a good or bad, obviously, time will tell. But I think if a business has a choice to save like 80%, 90% of their HR or human resources cost, business will choose that, right? It's not against humans, but ultimately business needs to survive. We are going to see those kind of demand. We will see those kind of behaviors and adoption because you don't have a choice, right? It's like COVID-19. What can you do? Like, you cannot go to school, you cannot go to job. You're forced to use Zoom and most of the sort of a digital way to communicate with people and get your business done. And if you have some economic slowdown, you don't have a choice to use like agents. And these agents happen to be well trained and well known. By that time, the businesses will adopt immediately, right? So then they're not going to hesitate. The same way how um, like iPhone is, you know, iPhone used to be somewhat cool product, but it took like a couple of years iPhone to actually adopt it to mainstream adoption. Uh, Everybody thought that's a cool thing, an expensive phone when it's first launched, but I think the traction came iPhone 3 and iPhone 4. Until that, at that time, it was a premium product. Nobody, like, everybody liked it, but nobody had it. But now people started using it. Now, if you think about it, buying a phone, people automatically think it's like iPhone. Yeah, I should buy iPhone, or if I don't have a budget, I'll go for like smartphone. um, it's a default thinking, and I think this is what would happen if you have an economic downturn, especially in the coming years. But what I wanted to talk to you today, it's not about general agents in Web 2 world. I'm interested in agents in the DeFi or Web 3 space, because like we had our boom back in DeFi summer in 2020 and 2021. It was a very exciting time because we, for the first time, we introduced the idea that you don't need to rely on banks. You can build your own banks. You don't need to rely on centralized exchanges. You can use decentralized exchanges, more trustless way to interact with finance. It's like freedom. People felt freedom. People felt for like people felt really good building these kind of innovation and technologies. But I think the future in Web3 space, if you think about agentic uh, agentic innovation, I think the idea of like maybe 10, 20, even maybe 30 times bigger industry compared to what we had, DeFi industry in 2020 and 2021 might come, right? That might be one of a big trend in crypto or Web3. It could be this year, it could be next year. I mean, who knows? If you have a textbook bear market, let's say September, October, things start recovering, and then from there onwards, it's gonna be a growth, and then you'll have a typical bull market cycle. Uh, So that kind of aligning with what I'm talking about, the idea of like agentic fi, it will be a big deal because the demand from institutions to retail users, the agentic fi will be extremely big, because if the idea that you have autonomous agents that are living and breathing in a very decentralized, more trustless way, and these agents are a lot more smarter, and it can train without using, let's say, off-chain components. It can learn and live and breathe inside the smart contracts and inside blockchain. Like, think about like a layer. So if you want to think about if you want to visualize like a sandwich, you have the first layer. It's the infrastructure. The second layer of the sandwich is the software layer of the blockchain, which is the consensus algorithms and the smart contracts. And then on a top layer, it's where the smart layer or agent layer. So if you take like Solana or Base or Ethereum, you have a layer on top that designed specifically for agents. So that top layer, it doesn't require off-chain component. So let's call it like an AI L2 layer on top of existing blockchains, and those layers can produce a lot more high quality and more advanced capabilities compared to like simple smart contracts, because smart contracts are dumb, right? It doesn't even know the time unless you provide to the smart contract. But if you go advance, maybe one more level up, the agents can understand what's going on. Agents can understand what is a liquidity. Agents can understand, you know, what is needed to make it happen, to achieve a goal. Because most of like algorithms that even deep link, like myself and my team used to build in 2021, or what Andre used to build in 2020, or Melon protocol build, these are very simple algorithms, right? And in order to upgrade those algorithms, you have to manually check and look at the bugs, and you have to just constantly upgrade those things. But if you think about like agents that can update things and learn on the go, is a vastly different innovation, because agents can talk to each other. It can learn mistakes. It can learn from its mistakes. It can also understand the intent, because intent is going to be very important, because context and intent is what we didn't have before. Like the large language models, the idea that able to predict the next word based on probability, that is a very different computer science problem that no one has solved before, until like like ChatGPT solved that problem. There were a lot of white papers written before, and there were a couple of other use cases that had that capabilities, but nobody took that into a scale like what OpenAI did. So my concept, my idea here, um, when it's come to a Agent Phi, I think there will be some really great innovation will happen. Um, I don't know. It could be this could come from Solana, right? I mean, who knows? So it has to be a popular blockchain. I know there's some of blockchains like Near, they wanted to build their own kind of AI chain. I don't think those kind of a approach will be good, because user acquisition and user retention will be quite difficult. Solana might be probably a good ecosystem. I think they will build those kind of technologies. And of course, when we work integrate with our infrastructure, um, because our infrastructure is a decentralized compute infrastructure, right? You cannot you cannot run agents without having a compute layer. You need a brain. You need the blood. Uh, you need you need you need things for the agent to survive, which what OpenxAI has. OpenxAI has compute. OpenxAI can provide data. So if the layer of, let's say, the deterministic executions and liquidity, those things can live and breathe in a blockchain like Solana blockchain, but then the intelligent layer can come from something like OpenxAI. So we will be looking to especially Agentic Phi capabilities, because our V10, like I didn't tell you guys, last year we done a lot of research last year, and also we even prepared last year to launch this X402. If you go to OpenxAI, if you go to openxai.org/X402, you can even see a page that we highlighted um, how V10 will be compatible with agents. Like V10 platform designed for humans, right? So you can just go into a web browser, like your internet browser, and then go to our studio, and you can launch your agents, you can launch your AI models, you can manage your AI services, you can pay for your compute, you can put your AI models into a marketplace, everything done by a human. But the idea of the V10 that we design, the philosophy of the V10 is not just for humans, is also compatible with agents. So agent can scan our marketplace, and agent can bid a human's, whoever created, let's say, mini app or AI service. Agent can rent from a human, or agent can put their own services into marketplace. Agents to agents can have their own interactions and uh, economic transactions. So V10, the design of the V10, it's not just for humans. It's for agents as well. If you guys want to take a look at it, if you're listening, just go to openxai.org/. Let me double check. Yeah, no, I want to give you the right link. openxai.org. Yeah, so openxai.org/x40402. I'll repeat, openxai.org/x402. So you can see, like we even built a really cool landing page highlighting how, V10 platform will be ready for agents. Anyway, so these are sort of a future work, but idea here for us, I personally, I think, excited about the agentic finance world, agentic 5, and we are going to see agentic GDP terminology going to come, because I think this is what's coming in the next couple of years, that agents going to be kind of like a living and breathing like people, and they will just do things that possibly humans really don't want to do, like basic things, um, things that not even necessary now. Um, if I were to give you an example, like in 1950s, people, if you're making a call to your family using a telephone, and it won't connect directly to where you're calling, you're just calling the operator, and you're saying hello to operator, and operator will basically ask you where you want to call, and then operator will basically connect the connection to where you want to call. So there's a middleman, used to be, but now it's obviously we dial a number, it just goes directly to whoever you want to call. But in 50s, there used to be operator. And I don't know if you also saw, maybe in like 80s, if you go to hotels, there used to be a operator on elevator, right? So it's called operators in elevators. These are full-time jobs, right? But those jobs don't exist anymore. And I think like typical things like accounting, maybe social media, research, admin, project management, reporting, some basic software development, all of those jobs probably will be gone in the next 5 years. So I think agents will look after those jobs. Like if you guys picture the idea of like freelancer.com or upwork.com, where you can rent or hire people for different tasks and different projects. I think there will be some Upwork or freelancer or Fiverr.com types of solutions, but instead of people, they're agents, like well-trained agents with like really good, um, kind of a well-trained systems. The agents will do the job for you for a fraction of cost. And I think businesses will use those services to get the service, whatever the services they needed. Um, and I think these agents, like beyond into like a more productivity industry, when it's come to like the DeFi industry, this is where crypto probably will boom across multiple verticals. So why this is relevant, I think, for us, when you think about use cases for V10 and use cases for what we can enable. If our technology is suitable on two path or two vertical, one is the compute, because compute is always needed for you to host the agent, for you to manage the agent, because that's the main host. And you also need a framework to agents to make payments and autonomously access and given specific controls and specific let's say permissions for the agents to interact. I think our roadmap covers both of that. When it's come to like private hosting with secure hosting, where you can host and manage your agents, the part that's missing at the moment is like something like a exponent kind of a capabilities, where you can make payments. Agents, your agents can make payments behalf of you, collect payments behalf of you, and etc. So going from simple use cases like, I wanted to pay, or maybe I wanted to build a trading bot that live and breathe in on-chain, that it does basically arbitrage between different exchanges, or I want a bot that does like more advanced things. Things might be probably don't even exist today. And I think these are the cool industries will merge in the coming months. And AgentFi, I think, will be much bigger than what we had, in the last cycle, in the DeFi cycle, because ultimately, like a lot of these trends and cycles, always driven by hype. Um, the hype that we had in 2020, it was the idea of like liquidity being allocated for different projects, and you earn some yield. So back in that cycle, liquidity locusts, or liquidity people just with liquidity, they just go and farm as much tokens possible, like extract the value. Because of that greediness and opportunity, a lot of people drove into the industry, right? It's not a casino, but it's still like earning money out of thin air, like magic money, right? So that's drove a lot of people. But what would happen with agentic fi? I think people will go crazy this year when agents basically performing a lot of things that human couldn't do, or smart contracts couldn't do. So that will create like extra liquidity and leverage products and leverage services in agentic fi industry that will create a lot of excitement, especially in DeFi space, and that's going to drive a lot of users. I think retail users will come back to crypto with agentic fi, because they're going to start renting out agents. They trying to speculate. They want to do prediction side. They want to go trading, but more fun and more advanced. Um, and I think those kind of industries probably will merge this year. But for us, of course, we are infrastructure provider, right? So we are not going to build like all kind of a services for people to speculate, but we provide infrastructure for builders and other users to come and build things. I think one of the key aspects for agentic fi industry, one of the key thing is needed is a really distributed computing, like let's call it decentralized compute infrastructure. That's going to be a really important need, because you need to be able to host and train AI models. Because if you have amazing blockchain can run everything on chain, then yes, but I don't think we are there yet. Maybe in 2030 or 2035, we will have blockchains that are capable of, having its own compute layer that advanced enough that you can run in an LLM on a blockchain directly, right? So it's not, you don't need off-chain compute, or you don't need like a decentralized compute layer. It's going to be built into Ethereum or Solana, and it does the job completely, right? So, or agents or intelligent systems, they have like a small amount of compute required. You can host on chain directly instead of having uh, like expensive compute servers that you have to run everything outside. So lighter version of agents, lighter version of LLMs, lighter version of MCPs, lighter version of advanced AI modules can be deployed on chain. So, it run and breathe completely in a trustless way on top of a blockchain. I think, that might come in maybe 2020, 2020, 2029, 2030, maybe 2032, maybe, who knows, right? We might get there. But until you get there, um, you need to have infrastructure to be able to host it, because we are not going to jump to that fast or to that level very quickly. This is where I think OpenxAI decentralized compute layer going to be important. So as long as you have a really good integration with a specific blockchain where we think going to introduce great use cases like Agentic Fi, I think Solana probably will be a really good ecosystem, because they've got liquidity, they've got lots of users, lots of builders. And I think Base and Solana will be the winner on the agent and AI space, most likely this year and next year. So we will be doing a lot of integrations. Our V10 platform will will create like a touch point for humans to deploy and manage. So V10 platform, it's a gateway, or it is the interface, or UX if you want to call it, or UI for people to interact with it. So because you cannot read on-chain data, right? So you cannot read the what's going on. You cannot manage what's going on chain and what's going on the compute layer. You need to have an interface that you can read and see and manage by clicking buttons and etc. That's what the V10 is for. And if V10 is capable of working with agents, then you don't need a human interface. There will be just a simple middleware, that API or middleware layer that agents can manage services directly. So those are sort of product and development work we will be working on in the next coming weeks and coming months, looking at more advanced industries and how we can create infrastructure and create product utility. It's going to be a key important factor, because if you're building technologies for something that exists last year, then you're not innovating. So for us, it's very important build technology that's relevant in 1 to 2 years. That's going to be a very important product and engineering decisions that we'll be making. But I think for us, Agentic Fi and agentic agentic frameworks gonna be integrated to V10, because we see human and agents gonna be working together in harmony, and V10 will facilitate our users will not be just developers like individual. Those our users will be agents as well. That's the mindset that we are having. That's the design philosophy and the design principle of V10. So yeah, so these are some of updates and on more like a long-term product ideas that we have. And I think the industry of the agentic finance is going to be a very exciting for crypto.
Thank you, Aston, for all those updates. I believe everyone is quite excited what you have shared with us. So next we will have the Q&A session. So those who have questions to ask to Aston, ask for the permission. Once we finish this questions that we have collected from this community, we will give you permission to ask your question directly to Aston. So yeah, if you have any questions, you can already ask for permission. We will go one by one. First, let's finish the community questions. So Aston, are you up for it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So yeah, first one is regarding V10. I think it's one of the very common question. We have seen a kind of teaser post for V10 that it is on the way. So, are the features or what is there that the community can see and use for this month or the next month? Like in short term period, what are the features that you are going to implement first?
The basic features that we have App Store, which you can find the most common LLM models. You can deploy directly into our decentralized cloud network, and you can tokenize out of it. And you can find things like the cheap compute. We have functionalities like using smart contracts to replace bank accounts, all of that stuff. Those features already included on the V10 design. Um, the idea of V10 launch, we don't want to just launch V10 without having some user base, right? It's like Taylor Swift arriving London, but nobody heard about Taylor Swift, and she just appeared with her the crew, but nobody's there, right? So that's the bad launch, because product launches have to be very coordinated correctly. A lot of product launch people fail because of they do a bad execution when it's come to product launches. So the timing is important. The original plan with the V10 for 2026, we were thinking to launch. We do a product announcement first in a physical event in Dubai, where we just it's a really cool environment, and then we announce the product itself, the product features. That will be the first public showcase of the V10 platform, and then you run for like couple of days, like 30 to 45 days to onboard the users. So the original plan to onboard about 100,000 users, and they're basically waiting for the product to be launched. So and then you launch the product and you run specific campaigns for people to build. Early builders will get some early rewards and leaderboards, referral programs, marketplace. It's a lot of things we planned. But since now, you know, the Web3 industry is very bearish and very toxic at the moment. These are the facts. So we are going with the light launch, not the full launch that we want. We're just gonna go do a light launch because we wanted to see like February things get calmer, but it doesn't. It, it's not the case anymore. Um, Thanks to Trump, he's just causing more and more turbulence. He wants to pick fights with pretty much everyone, so that's causing a lot of significant turbulence across the across the globe. So we will do V10 Lite, which means there will be a set of small features that will enable, instead of having to focus on 100,000 users, we will lower our expectation. We'll get smaller number. And our team proposing like some revenue generation type of activities, because we are offering a really good compute for like 80% cheap. So we can generate revenue, whether you want to host your, let's say, popular AI models and you wanted to test things, so we could start accepting payments. So that's a still debate. I think that would degrade the platform. The V10 Lite, for me, having some really cool, useful technologies and innovation that don't exist in anywhere, right? So that's how a platform should launch, and this is how a platform uh, will recognize, because there are lots of tools available today, but platforms like V10 it's not common. To be honest, there's only like few platforms exist um, in the world today. But some of the capabilities offered by V10 don't even exist. So we want to decide a few features will be enabled, onboard some users, and do a bigger V10 launch when things get better, maybe Q2 or Q3, or focus on the V10 light version and then start building a user base. So we'll get some more update, right? Because that decision we need to make as soon as possible, because month of March is where we need to finalize and execute that. So we're collecting some feedback, some partners, because we have to work with existing external partners to onboard more users, because we are not capable of onboarding 100,000 users, right? So we have to work with partners to onboard those users, unless we have like a couple of millions of dollars in our bank that we can do like a user acquisition. Otherwise, we have to work with partners. Um, so we are going to lower our expectation, because unfortunately, even February still is a terrible month. So March might be okay. So we'll do a light version, V10 Lite launch with some of the really cool features that really works. People will enjoy. We will work with our hack mode participants. They are builders that they really wanted to work, and they're going to showcase uh, some of a product that they built in the past. So we will work with them to showcase some really cool tech. There will be some cool features and cool apps will be available. I was talking to Ton Foundation, so they are based out of Dubai. We can do like cool integration with Telegram and Ton Foundation. So V10 Lite, we will do some collaboration with Ton, and the distribution will be working with them. And after the V10 Lite launch, then we can prioritize a little bit bigger launch if things are getting better. Um, and then we can enable some of the onboarding features towards to V10 um, full version.
That's a pretty solid answer. Next one we have regarding the Genesis NFT. So the question is, when V10 launches as a single unified platform, will the Genesis NFTs be distributed around that time?
So it's up to the ambassadors. I was asking Paulus to confirm that, because we got two choices. Either uh, we let simply mint the NFTs, like people just basically have NFT and there's no utility with the Genesis NFT, or you wait for the V10 Lite launch and we enable some sort of rewards with that NFT, so you can do something with it. Um, the reason why we didn't want to mint those Genesis NFTs, but because people cannot do anything with it without the platform, right? Because Genesis NFT and the platform are kind of going hand to hand, like they work together. Without V10, Genesis NFT is useless, in my opinion. So if the community just simply need the Genesis NFT on your wallet, we can mint it. It's up to ambassadors coordinate that request from the community, and we can execute. Right? It's basically signing our internal team signing a couple of contracts, and Genesis NFT will be minted and will be distributed. But what are you going to do with it? Yeah. So whatever you guys need. I mean, ideally, what would be ideal is to launch that with the V10 Lite, so you guys can do things like staking, or maybe you guys will have access to like some cool features unique to Genesis NFT, which we can honor those who are you know supported us in the past, we can enable like features only for Genesis NFT users.
I think that would be cool because without the utility, NFT is nothing. So yeah, but still, we will like coordinate with the community and let you know what they decide. So next one we have that uh, out of the major updates we have talked in past is the V10, Genesis NFTs and buybacks. Which one can the community realistically expect to see happen this month or the next month?
Oh, wow. So we love to execute, right? Like we're very like our team love execution. Um, it's not like we fail to execute. We're making sure that anything that we do, we are not basically burning our ammunitions, because V10 is a big launch. We don't want to just launch because we want to launch, because we promised, or they stated on the we said on our roadmap. Um, we have to be nimble and agile based on the industry, how things are going. If things are good, we love to execute. We love to push these things. Um, we're adapting to the industry, right? If industry is good and people are feeling like what people used to feel like before October 10th, yes, we'll be shipping a lot of things by now, right? Because a lot of tech is being built last year, and we're just waiting for some good time. So this month we we can give you guys some updates with the V10 Lite. Um, we're gonna see some probably dates. What are the dates gonna be for the V10, the feature prioritization for V10 Lite, and how that gonna look like. We will make some announcements around that. Um, and the Genesis NFT, like I said, it's up to you guys, right? So if community want to mint that, we can mint it. I don't have any problem with that. Other than that, buybacks, any sorts of like listing or liquidity related, as soon as we have the foundation and the frameworks done, we can execute that. So this month, things that you can expect is the updates with the legal side and V10 Lite updates.
Cool. So you mentioned buyback. Next question is regarding that only. So the question goes like, what specific steps and conditions need to be completed before the buybacks begin, or we execute the buybacks?
Yeah, the buybacks are done through in a more proper way. You've got a custodian. Custodian will basically give the mandate, and then from mandate, the foundation will approve that, and it goes to the market maker. Then the market maker will make public statements to us, and then we just approve those public statements. We publish on our social media, and then people will see that publicly when and how they're going to be executed, right? Um, but I cannot say any of that information beforehand, um, because I cannot give inside information to the public. Our legal counsel, everyone just saying, give 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 community 24 to 48 hours heads up, and that's the only thing I can do. I cannot give advance like what date and how much amount that we'll be buying back. That's something that I'm not allowed to say. I want to share, but this is what the lawyers advise not to share.
Good to know. I think we will wait for the announcements only. So for that. So yeah, in the next one, yeah, go ahead.
I want to say, like, when you are a US entity and when you're dealing with things like buybacks, it has to do in a correct way. a lot of projects, they just do it without following a lot of guidelines. That can cause significant scrutiny through regulators. Since we are a US entity, like the two regulators are looking at activities, like anything to do with the financial activities. So buybacks are a little bit heavy when it's come to regulators like CFTC and SEC. They are looking for like projects violating a lot of security laws and also specific 19 what was that 1933 couple of security and financial regulations that they put forward. Regardless of what's happening with crypto industry in the US with Trump and new regulations, those most of these proposals haven't been approved, right? Um, we feel like US is a great place for crypto. There's a lot of regulation clarity and a lot of regulation um, scrutiny have been reduced. But unfortunately, if you really speak to lawyers in the US, if you working with regulators, things aren't bright like what you hear on media. Is very different, right? So some of the frameworks is still the same like when Gary Gensler around. A lot of CFTC guidelines is the same thing that existed 5 years ago, hasn't changed. So for us, we don't want to be in a position where the project will have receive SEC or CFTC uh, warnings. Or warnings are okay, receiving a warning from CFTC saying, hey, we violated certain their guidelines. Okay, we can just basically say sorry. But if they go a little bit more heavy, which they have in the past, that's not good because the reputational damage, but also we'll be paying a lot of significant fines. And yeah, there'll be some more challenges, right? So we want to avoid all of that, because typically when it's come to buyback, it's not simple that we decide foundation has treasury and just execute buyback. You need to do a proper way of doing it. This is the risk being a US entity.
So, yeah, the next question is regarding the Kraken listing. So, the Kraken listing currently moving forward behind the scene, or should the community assume that it's not happening anytime soon? I think you have already mentioned, but yeah, go ahead.
I mean, the Kraken listing, these are just for us, this Kraken listing is a good strategy that we had last year. Because Kraken is a good exchange, does not bring much volume. It's like a stamp to go to the next level of centralized exchange listing. So we work with external party who basically gave us a really good roadmap going through different exchanges. So at that time, we're talking about November last year. We meant to list on AirDrum in base, and if we did the tokenized GPU, we'll be doing a lot of listing on Solana ecosystem, and with that, the liquidity will be quite good with our token. And we'll do Kraken and one more tier one exchange. That was the plan. So we do Kraken, and then after that, we go to that tier one exchange, because that tier one exchange, we have to pay a significant amount of fees for a listing fee. That was a good exchange. In order to list that exchange, Kraken would be something that we need to list first. And prior to that, during that time, we also have to get some more traction in liquidity in AirDrum and Solana ecosystem. So the idea, it was a really good plan that we had. Kraken was a one piece of that execution. But now the liquidity is fragmented. It's no point listing on Kraken only, because if you want to do it properly, it has to be a strategic listing right? So when liquidity is started coming back and things are getting better, because across all markets, we're not talking about Kraken or any other exchanges. Today, if you look at most of exchanges, including decentralized exchanges, most of retail people gone. Like, you guys can go validate this. Just don't take my word. Majority of the volume is dropped. Currently, most of centralized exchanges, whether it's institutional players and all market makers, or some projects, they have to provide liquidity and be active on centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges. They are the only people are there at the moment. Everybody else left. So, I mean, what's the point listing on Kraken when the markets are in a terrible position, with the liquidity are extremely fragmented. From a liquidity optimization point of view, and also um, in order to build a really good, solid exchange listing roadmap, without having that in place, it is not worth listing in Kraken, because Kraken was one piece of a really broader a strategy and a roadmap, broader roadmap for listing OpenxAI on a tier one exchange. Kraken is a tier one exchange, but the exchange that we spoke to last year, it was much more better in terms of liquidity. So Kraken was a really good times, like a stamp or hygiene test, if you want to call it. And then the other exchange would be, they would be able to list us very quickly, because we've done the MiCA white papers and done all the regulatory requirements through Kraken. So when you list on Kraken, the other tier one exchange immediately list, and also the fees will be significantly lower. And you don't have to spend, like that particular exchange, they requested us to spend on like promotions and marketing, and we refused. So those expenses also can be put into the community, and maybe buybacks. So that was the plan that we had last year, but things have changed. So we have to adopt based on how the industry is moving and evolving.
Cool. So, yep. Just one question left. So, for the community, it's a reminder, get ready with your questions. Once we finish this one, we will take your questions. So, the last one is that based on the recent poll in the TG where token utility and a properly finished V10 were top priorities, what concrete progress can the community expect in a short term?
So the V10 Lite is a concrete thing. Its set of features will be enabled and will be announced. We'll be running a couple of campaigns. We'll be focusing more non-Web3 AI communities, because we don't want to launch V10 Lite version with 100 users. It's not efficient for us to do that. We would rather just wait and do it in a better way. But since we want to do it so that way we can interact with users, we can learn, we can improve things. So we are going to go ahead with a lighter version of V10. So we're working on that as we speak. So I think end of the month or beginning of next month, you'll see that campaign will be announced and will be executed.
Yeah, thanks for those clear, great answers. So it's time for the community. If you have any questions, you can just ask for the permission. I will provide you that, and you can ask your question directly to Aston. So go ahead. Let me see. If anyone... I believe we have answered most of the burning questions already. Okay, we have Somi with us. Let me give her permission. Yeah, hello Swami. Yeah, I have provided you the permission. Now you can.
Okay. Good evening,
Yeah.
everybody. Good evening, good evening, host. Good evening, Austin. Good evening, my fellow listeners. I'm so excited to be here once again. And let me just be direct with my question. Austin, it's really about what you said in one of your analogies because I think I listened um I think we about 30 minutes ago. So yeah, about one of your analogies when we were talking about agents, and you really highlighted some of the advantages of agents being useful, especially to our cause and also to other aspects when you're actually looking at it. And there's this particular analogy that you use. I don't know whether I heard you correctly or I misheard you, but you can actually correct me if I'm wrong. You said that the Solana infrastructure doesn't have a compute, and our system, just like the OpenxAI, we have that compute, so we can be able to, you use this agent unlike the Solana infrastructure. And then you went on to another analogy using FIFA as an example, saying that some people, who usually go to FIFA to get some services or something like that, they can actually, the FIFA platform can actually use some agents and something like that to be able to um, put some charges and let people that want the services pay for it or something. So I'm not like looking at it, okay, if that particular thing can happen, if that FIFA platform can actually do it in that way, such that um, these services are being made to people that can afford it. Like when you're actually looking at it in that aspect, you see that those opportunities that those people that usually render those services um, before their services were actually turned automatically into agents, you see that they'll lose their opportunity and they'll lose those opportunities, especially those people that actually do this to earn a living. And it actually makes it kind of centralized because there are some people who want the services, there are some organizations that want the services, they'll go directly to FIFA and they'll get these services, and that now means like the service is only going to the it's like going away, the opportunities are going away from the people and just going to the platform and the people that the services are rendered. So I'm not like, let's take it as a hypothetical statement right now. What if maybe OpenSAI, since OpenSAI is like a compute, and OpenSAI starts using this agent, and some organizations reach out to OpenxAI, to get the services, and probably the services, there are some community members that usually handle the services and all that, like OpenxAI now like rendering the services to these particular people and like making everything agentized or something like that. Does it not like it's not actually like removing power from the people, removing like community like isn't it like dismantling that community posterity that we're actually talking about? I would just like to like kind of like give me an answer there so that I'll be able to understand that concept.
All right. So, okay. So I'll try. I'll give it a shot. Okay. The way I understood your question, there's a few parts of the question. One, it's about like Solana versus OpenxAI, and the other part, what I heard, like a community, how community, like we are people, and how community that we are as kind of a collective bunch of humans together, and having agents probably will be um, not having these, let's say, interactions with community and engagements probably will decay a lot of growth in the community. Am I right in that analogy?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You're right. That's what I'm actually trying to say.
Okay, so let me address the OpenxAI and Solana concept, right? So, uh, like if you think about typical blockchains, the blockchains are like a simple database, right? So it's a distributed database. It keeps a record of all the transaction happen. And you have something called virtual machine. Virtual machine is kind of it's like the brain. You can just keep you can compute things. Most of blockchains are um, very basic in a way that how the consensus algorithm works. But when it's come to like doing more advanced tasks, more smarter tasks, even though we call it smart contracts, but you cannot create smart contracts smarter. Um, these contracts are very simple, either one direction or deterministic type of operations. But if you're thinking of having a layer on top of existing blockchain that you have, that you can live and breathe like agents, and maybe simply think like hosting a LLM on a blockchain. That 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 those type of blockchains don't exist today. You cannot run agents on a blockchain, right? So then you have to have some sort of a compute layer. So traditionally, those compute layer exist in centralized servers, like centralized cloud providers. What OpenxAI is working on and what we have is a decentralized compute network. So that's native to Web3, native to crypto, integrate with blockchains. So then, like theoretically, we can provide a layer on top of Solana, layer on Ethereum, layer on top of a base that agents and AI services can live and breathe. And the blockchain layer will be for settlements, for execution, and for native things that we need to interact with the blockchain. And the other part is to access the liquidity. So if the agents need to interact with some sort of a financial related services or financial related operations, then these blockchains, they've got plenty of liquidity, whether it's a trading terminals or trading ecosystems or DeFi native protocols. Those protocols they have a permissionless way to interact with those liquidity pools. So the liquidity can be flown into agents. So the agents can access the liquidity. If you want to visualize in a very simple way, like layers. So the top layer, you have agents and smart systems living and breathing, and they can access liquidity. They can do things in second, third layers of liquidity, which is the blockchain layer. So if you build things on top of Solana and Base, then agents can interact with those primitive systems that exist and establish, which is DeFi, which is decentralized exchanges. So then agents can execute things behalf of users or behalf of protocols. So that's the idea of smart systems or smart agents on-chain smart agents. Second question about community is being disappearing because of agents. I mean, I don't know the answer, right? So that could be the reason. Because if you look at like how social media, changed like like teenagers and kids, like it's very sad. Because when I was growing up, we didn't have any smartphones. Like I grew up in '80s, so like I remember, um, like I communicate and connect with people by just knocking someone's door, and most of my childhood I just play outside, and and we just play until like 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, and when I look at even I thought this is a Western problem, but when I think about my home country like Sri Lanka, when I speak to my family, hey, what about kids are playing at nighttime or evening, but nobody's playing, like nobody's outside. There's no kids playing outside. There's no teenagers hanging around in places. So why is the case? So I think it's social media, and then now society have changed. So do you think this agent's gonna kind of impact what we have now, like community? Maybe, right? I don't know, but agents are here to stay. Same way how social media is not going anywhere. but is it going to impact our community and people like you and I think most definitely.
Okay, thank you for that. Understood.
So, Aston, I think we have that question only. There is no other questions for now. So, any final remarks for the community?
The only thing I would say, guys, I feel a lot of frustration, right? I just want to say just one thing. When it's come to shipping things, there's a big difference between ticking boxes versus strategically deploying things. So we are not like failing to execute, right? I just want to say this many times. We are being bit nimble and very lean when it's come to times like this, because our most valuable things like V10, most valuable things like X402, most valuable things like Solana deployment with tokenized GPU, these are very important milestones, our project that we've been building and it's putting a lot of resources. But what we're not going to do, we're not going to just launch those things because we want to launch it, right? It makes no sense. Like even someone with a common sense will understand that. So we wanted to make sure that we want to do things in a right time, because timing is everything in tech world. If you don't get your timing correct, then it's gonna it's not gonna help your project, right? You basically completely launching things at a time that it make no sense. So it's like how do I say? You have World War II, and then you just open up a shop selling like designer garments, right? So it's World War II going outside, and you just opened I don't know, like a like a designer garments, right? So people don't care, right? People don't care, and that's what it is. So why do we waste our the biggest innovation and biggest breakthroughs that we've been building for years, and our ammunition, these are our ammunitions, right? So why do we release all of that on a terrible time, like listing on exchange, when we have the lowest liquidity and the lowest activity around all exchanges, centralized and decentralized exchanges? Why we do listing, right? Tell me why do we do things that make no sense? So this is what I don't understand. So I think what we need to do, like happy to discuss with you guys, like if you guys have different opinions, community has like a solid insights into why we should do XYZ for a valid reason, other than just say, hey, you guys promised last month we're going to do this, why we're delaying it. Other than that, like a tick boxes, if you have a if community or anyone has like very important and useful insights, please provide to us, right? So our ambassadors are your ears and your eyes. So please reach out to our ambassadors or reach out to me in DM, and we will consider. But if the request is, hey, you said we are listing in Kraken in November, why not listing in Kraken now? Like we need to use common sense, right? So that's all I can say, because for us, we are doing internally, we are also frustrated, like not being able to ship things, not being able to do things the way we want to do, right? We love to ship and keep the team going, because that's also impacting internal morale, right? People get bored not having to do things sometimes. So but except just building and improving our tech, what else we can do, right? Most of bear markets or times like this, what you do, you shut up and build. That's what I've learned in hard way. Because I said this before, I used to go against this, right? So I used to believe that regardless of what is the market condition, you just keep going in terms of releases and doing a lot of public related uh, public related things, whether deploying capital into exchanges, deploying capital into marketing campaigns, all sorts of things. Like we've done tons of those mistakes in the past. I think I highlighted this on a previous AMA, specifically during 2018 bear markets. I was pushing like smart city agenda with Phantom. That was a wrong time. Nobody give a damn about having a blockchain being able to support smart cities, right? And we wasted a lot of resources. But when it's a good time like DeFi summer and positioning Phantom as a DeFi chain, that worked really well because industry is helped to elevate and accelerate your brand and your what you're offering to the marketplace. So you gotta do the mismatching of what the industry need and how things are going to what we're offering. Otherwise, there's a complete mismatch, and we're just launching things out of nowhere.
Thank you, Aston. I think it has been a great AMA for this week. We get so many updates from you. We got all of the answers of our questions. We get a glimpse of what's coming in terms of V10 or V10 Lite. So yeah, overall, thank you so much, and thank you the community for staying with us, for listening everything, for understanding. So thank you all of you. I think that's all for this week. We will meet again next week, same time, same day. So yeah, take care, everyone.
Thank you, Ron. Have a good week.